Welcome to Sleepy Historian, where old tales whisper by candlelight and memories gently drift into dreams. Tonight, let us journey back to a time long asleep in history.
Let's now meet our first Norseman. Let us call him Born. He awakens before sunrise, the sky still dark with the cold of winter. A fire is already burning in the center of his longhouse, its warmth a lifeline against the biting wind that whistles through the cracks of the wooden walls. His wife Astrid is stirring a pot over the flames, her rhythmic movements a familiar lullaby to their 3 children who are playing quietly by the hearth. The embers glow orange in the pre-dawn light, casting dancing shadows on the rough-hewn wooden pillars that support the roof. The air is filled with the scent of wood smoke and porridge, a simple gruel made of grain and water. It is their staple food, a monotonous but necessary part of their daily diet. Outside, the wind continues to moan, rattling the shutters that cover their windows. But for now, there is a fragile peace in the heart of this small family as they share their breakfast in companionable silence. After their meal, it is time for work. In the fields outside their longhouse, Thor's hammer hangs heavy in the pale sky. Winter has just begun to loosen its icy grip, but the ground is still hard and cold beneath their feet. Bjorn, with his 2 eldest children, begins the slow and laborious task of clearing the frozen soil, while Astrid attends to the animals, ensuring they have enough to eat and drink. The younger child remains by the house, gathering kindling for the next fire. For the Norse people, life was a cycle of sowing and harvesting, of working the land and caring for their animals. This was the reality for most Norse men, women, and children. The ebb and flow of seasons dictated their days, shaping their routines and determining their very survival. Each season had its own rhythm and challenges. Spring brought the promise of new life, but also the urgent need to plant the seeds before the cold returned. Summer was a time of long daylight hours, a blessing for farmers who could make hay and mend their fences in the lingering warmth. Autumn arrived with the vibrant colors of the changing leaves and the somber task of preparing for winter's harsh embrace. And winter itself was a test of endurance, a season when the sun's pale light struggled to pierce the heavy clouds, and the temperature plummeted, making life in Scandinavia a constant struggle against the elements. Now, let's follow a different path, one that leads away from the farm and into the saga of Leif Erikson. Imagine yourself standing on a windswept cliff overlooking a churning sea. The year is 999, and before you lies the unknown Atlantic, a vast expanse of water that has never been fully explored. The salty breeze whips at your face, carrying with it the cries of gulls and the distant rumble of waves crashing against unknown shores. Here, on the edge of the known world, stands Leif Erikson, a man driven by an insatiable curiosity and the spirit of adventure. With a small fleet of ships at his command, he is about to embark on a voyage that will change history forever. As we move further into the saga of the Vikings, we're going to hear about incredible stories like that of the oseberg ship burial, which features one of the most remarkable Viking finds ever discovered at beautifully preserved rail ship from the 9th century. Picture this, a team of archaeologists unearthing a burial mound unlike any other. The mound is massive, indicating that it holds the remains of an important individual. But what they uncover next is truly astonishing, a meticulously crafted oseberg ship, complete with intricate carvings and even a complete set of rigging. The discovery sends shockwaves through the academic world and the public alike. As we learn more about the ship and its possible connection to a legendary Viking ruler, a sense of wonder and excitement fills the air. Finally, we find ourselves inside the great hall of a Viking chieftain. The air is thick with the smell of roasting meat and wood smoke as we take in the sights and sounds of Viking life. Women are weaving at their looms, men are drinking from their horns, and children are playing at their feet. In the center of the room, a group of men are gathered around a table, their voices rising and falling as they play a game of dice. One man, a young warrior named Ragnar, is so engrossed in the game that he doesn't notice the chieftain son approaching him with a sly smile. The boy leans over and with a flick of his finger, knocks one of the dice out of Ragnar's hand. Before Ragnar can realize what has happened, the boy has picked up the die and tossed it under his tunic. Ragnar looks down to see that the boy has vanished into the crowd. As the music swells and the feast continues, Ragnar can't help but feel a sense of unease. Is it just the flickering torchlight playing tricks on his eyes, or is there more to this than just a child's prank? Will he discover the truth behind the missing die? And what other secrets lie hidden within the walls of the longhouse? Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through time. If you enjoyed this episode, please remember to subscribe for more historical adventures. You wake up slowly to the pale light of a northern dawn. The air is cold even in summer. You rise from a straw-filled mattress inside a timber farmhouse. The smoke from the central fire lingers heavily in the rafters. Your breath curls in the morning air. Outside, the ground is stony and uneven. The soil is thin and the seasons are short. A Viking farm was not a place of abundance, but of constant struggle against the land itself. The chores begin immediately. Livestock must be tended. The cattle, goats or sheep that provide milk, wool and meat in winter, when they must be kept alive on hay cut and stored during the brief summer. Feeding them, cleaning the stalls, and repairing fences consumes much of the day. Then there is the field work. With wooden plows and iron-tipped tools, the farmers scrape furrows into the rocky soil. They sow barley, rye, and oats, crops hardy enough to withstand the chill. Every grain mattered, for hunger was always close. Even in good years, the yield was meager compared to the richer lands further south. In the summer, days are long, the sun barely dipping below the horizon, granting more hours to toil. But in winter, darkness swallows the land. The nights stretch endlessly while storms sweep across the fjords, and the earth lies frozen beneath a thick blanket of snow. The longhouse is filled with the sounds of the family as they go about their daily routines. Your father, a strong, broad-shouldered man with a thick red beard, is preparing to mend a fence. Your mother, her face lined and weathered like an old piece of leather, stirs a pot over the fire. Your younger siblings, their cheeks still chubby from nursing, are playing a game with some wooden blocks. It's a rare moment of levity in this austere existence. You, a young Viking on the cusp of adulthood, are expected to assume the tasks of a warrior. Your father, after all, can't fight and defend his land and livestock 24 hours a day. You sharpen your spear, its point gleaming in the firelight, imagining the swiftness and accuracy of its throw. Your sling is checked, its pouch holding smooth stones ready to fly. Your shield, adorned with the emblem of your clan, is hung securely on the wall, a silent promise of defense. Every able-bodied member of the community is trained in the use of weapons, not just for defense, but also for the raids that are an accepted part of life in these harsh lands. There's little glory in battle, only the grim duty to protect what's theirs. The raid that your father leads is small, just a dozen men. Their longboats are sleek and fast, slicing through the waves like keen-edged knives. The target is a coastal village, not for plunder, but for the necessities that their land won't provide. The journey is not without danger. The North Sea is a harsh mistress, tossing their boats and threatening to swallow them whole. But they navigate by the stars, their bodies attuned to the rhythms of the waves. When they reach the coast, they move swiftly, taking what they need and avoiding any confrontation that could turn deadly. Back at the farm, the rhythm of life is one of quiet desperation. The land grudgingly provides, but it's a constant struggle against the elements. The threat of famine, the endless toil, the bone-deep weariness. This is the reality of the Viking farmer. Yet even here, in the face of such hardship, life goes on. The seasons turn, the crops grow, and the cycle of work and survival continues. It is a life of quiet desperation, a testament to the human spirit's endurance in the harshest of environments. The great heathen army had sailed from here, their longships cutting through the waves like hungry wolves. But here in this far corner of the known world, life was not about conquest, but mere survival. Here, the Vikings were not fierce warriors, but toiling farmers. Even in hardship, there is rhythm. The farmer's life followed the turning of the year, sowing in the spring, tending in the summer, harvesting in the autumn, enduring in the winter, over and over, generation after generation. You might think of Vikings as fearless seafarers, yet for most, the true test of endurance was not the battlefield, but the soil beneath their feet. Picture the calloused hands of a farmer, rough from endless labor. Picture the backs bent over heavy loads, the weary eyes staring at a field that never seems to yield enough. It was not a life of choice, but of necessity. And yet there is also quiet beauty. Standing on the edge of a fjord at dusk, the sky painted in streaks of pale gold and deep blue. The sound of sheep bells in the distance. The smell of freshly cut hay. In those rare moments, the land reveals its gentler side, and one understands why, despite the hardships, families remained rooted here generation after generation. Still, survival was never certain. Crops failed, animals perished. And when winter tightened its grip too fiercely, some turned to raiding. Not for glory, but to bring home enough wealth to keep a farm alive. So as you lie here, listening, imagine not the roar of battle, but the endless cycle of the farm. A life of scraping, mending, enduring. The unsung truth of Viking life. A rhythm as steady as the turning seasons. Now, close your eyes and imagine yourself transported back to the 9th century. You are standing in a bustling Viking village. The air is filled with the sounds of hammers on iron, the bleating of sheep, and the laughter of children. You see a group of men preparing for a day of fishing. They have a deep knowledge of the sea and its creatures. They know how to read the signs of the tides and the flight of the birds. With their strong, well-built boats, they venture out into the vast ocean in search of food for their families. Some will return with tailies of monstrous waves, others with baskets laden with fish. As the sun climbs higher in the sky, you feel its warmth on your skin and hear the buzz of insects. You spot a lone woman walking through the village, carrying a basket of fresh berries. She has a staff in her hand and a necklace made of intricately carved stones around her neck. She greets everyone with a smile, and you can tell she is respected by all who know her. As the day wears on, the men return from their fishing, and the village comes alive with the sounds of trade. Merchants from distant lands have arrived, bringing with them exotic goods like spices and silks. There are bartering and trading, and you find yourself swept up in the excitement. As the sun begins its slow descent, you feel a chill in the air and see smoke rising from the longhouses. Inside, you find families gathered around tables eating their evening meal. The flickering light of the fire dances in their eyes, and you can hear the murmur of their voices as they share stories of their day. As darkness falls, you gather around a bonfire with your newfound friends. You listen to the crackle of the flames and watch as the shadows twist and turn in the firelight. Someone strums a harp, and the music fills the night air. You join in, singing songs of love, loss, and longing. When the night grows late, you retire to your cozy bed in the longhouse. The warmth of the day lingers in the air, and you dream of the adventures that await you in the morning. This is a glimpse into the daily life of Vikings. These were not just fierce warriors, but also skilled farmers, traders, and storytellers. They had a deep connection to the land and sea, and their lives were filled with both hardship and beauty. As you reflect on your experience, remember that every culture and time period is complex and nuanced, and that history is more than just battles and conquests. It is the story of everyday people living their lives and trying to make the world a better place. What did you find most surprising about Viking life? Share your thoughts below. And if you want to learn more about Vikings, check out the other videos in this series. And then suddenly there were signs of land. First, a mountain peak clawed at the clouds, then a forested coastline. They had reached an island. This was Vinland. Leif had found it. Now, Vinland likely refers to the region encompassing modern-day Newfoundland and Nova Scotia. This was a new world, or at least new to Norse people. Yet Leif was not the first outsider to reach these shores. There's evidence of earlier visits, perhaps by Irish monks, and certainly by the West Celtic peoples. But if they came, they left no lasting mark here. And to the people of Greenland, Vinland would remain unknown for another 5 centuries. Why? Because although Leif explored the area around Cape Cod and the Gulf of Maine, he didn't actually set foot on continental North America. That distinction probably goes to another Norseman, Bjarni Herjolfsson. According to the Icelandic sagas, Bjarni was blown off course on his way to Greenland and landed in a place he called Markland, which is generally believed to be mainland Canada. What Leif and his crew found was a land of plenty full of wild grapes, which they named Vinland. They stayed for a time hunting, fishing, and exploring. But as winter approached, they prepared to leave. The saga tells us that they sailed north along the coast until they saw a river flowing from south to north. It may have been the St. John's River in Canada or the Hudson River in the United States. Whatever its name, the river beckoned to the Norsemen as a path to potential riches. So they followed it up to a lake, which they named after the Christian saint, Olaf. Then they headed back to Greenland, carrying with them the promise of Vinland and the memory of a great river filled with fish. But did they really find all of this? Well, the story has survived through the ages, but much of it is shrouded in myth and legend. Historians and archaeologists have debated the exact locations of Vinland and the Olfus River for centuries. Some say the Norsemen never actually made it to North America. Instead, they argue the sagas are a blend of fact and fiction, with the main characters existing in Norse legend rather than history. However, there are those who believe the sagas are accurate accounts of real events. Supporters of this theory point to archaeological evidence, such as the Lance O Meadows site in Newfoundland, which contains the ruins of a Norse settlement and has been dated to around the year 1000. If we take the sagas at face value, then Leif's story goes like this. Upon returning to Greenland, he told tales of Vinland, hoping to inspire others to explore, or perhaps even settle in this newfound paradise. But the people of Greenland were not as excited as Leif had hoped. They had heard enough stories of strange lands to be cautious. Plus, they were happy enough in their chilly but familiar home. Only a few were willing to risk the dangerous voyage to Vinland. One of them was Thorvald, son of Snorri, who went to Vinland with Leif, and later settled in the region around Cape Cod. Over the next few decades, more Norsemen arrived, drawn by the promise of a good life in a new land. In the end, though, the colony failed. We don't know exactly why, but it was probably a combination of harsh weather, disease, and conflict with the native population. And so the Norse presence in North America disappeared, leaving behind empty settlements and a rich history of exploration and adventure. Wherever you stand on the story, the legacy remains. Leif Erikson, the son of Eric the Red, is a legendary figure in Scandinavian culture. Statues have been erected in his honor, and places from Iowa to Ontario bear his name. As for the sagas themselves, they are celebrated works of literature that have inspired countless readers over the centuries. Whether Leif really reached the shores of North America or not, his story captures the spirit of exploration and adventure that has always driven humanity forward. The year is 999. A ship lies buried beneath a farm in Norway. It is 1,000 years old, and inside may be treasure beyond your greatest dreams. for it is said to contain the personal belongings of a legendary Viking warrior. Let's open this time capsule from the past. Here we are at the farm of Godafoss in western Norway. This is a place steeped in history. Legend has it that a famous Viking chieftain named Kidil Flatnose was slain just outside the farmhouse in a battle over land and power. Today, archaeologists are excavating the site. They've already unearthed an array of artifacts, including animal bones, old tools, and weapons, and even the remnants of Viking-era houses. But what really captures their interest is something discovered in 2018, the buried ship. Now, we don't know exactly why this ship was interred here, but we do know who it once belonged to. It's thought to have been a transport vessel owned by a man named Gorm the Old. He was a member of the elite class of the Viking world, and when he died around the year 1000, he was laid to rest nearby. Buried with him were his 2 ships, both filled with his personal possessions. This is important because such burials were usually reserved for kings and other members of the royal family. But Gorm was neither. He was a wealthy merchant who had likely accumulated his fortune through trade with the Byzantine Empire. In fact, archaeologists uncovered a coin from Constantinople, the capital of the Eastern Roman Empire, dating to the year 996. The discovery of the coin is especially significant because it provides tangible evidence of the extent and value of Viking trade networks. It also gives us a glimpse into the cosmopolitan nature of Viking culture. Vikings weren't just fierce warriors and plunderers. They were also sophisticated traders who valued luxury goods from distant lands. But what else might we find inside the ship? Well, based on the accounts of other Viking burials, we can speculate that Gorm's vessels were likely filled with all manner of treasures, perhaps even some of the finest examples of Viking craftsmanship. There might have been intricately carved wooden chests, finely woven tapestries, and even gold and silver artifacts. Maybe there will be a rune stone with an inscription detailing the life and death of this mysterious merchant. Unfortunately, the excavation of the ship has been slow and painstaking. Archaeologists want to preserve the site as much as possible, so they're carefully removing the soil by hand. Plus, they're being extra careful because of the artifacts they've already found. The team's leader, archaeologist Lars Gustav Gentet, refers to them as delicate finds. To protect these precious objects, each item must be individually wrapped and labeled. Once everything has been carefully removed from the site, it will be sent to a lab for cleaning and further analysis. This will reveal more about Gorm, his status and wealth, and even his personal tastes. We'll learn about the quality and craftsmanship of his belongings, as well as the materials used to make them. But what will we learn about the Viking Age itself? After all, archaeology is not just about uncovering individual stories. It's also about understanding broader cultural patterns and societal norms. By studying the material culture of the Vikings, archaeologists can piece together how everyday people lived, worked, and interacted with one another. And who knows what surprises await us at Gorm's burial site? Perhaps we'll find evidence of religious beliefs and practices, or maybe we'll uncover items that suggest the Vikings were more culturally sophisticated than previously believed. Who was Gorm the Old? What led him to amass such wealth? And why was he buried in such a lavish manner? These are just some of the questions that archaeologists hope to answer in the coming months and years. As they continue to excavate the site, they'll be joined by a team of specialists, including historians, geneticists, and even art historians. Together, they allow work to piece together the story of this mysterious merchant and the world in which he lived. Maybe we'll learn that Gorm wasn't just a wealthy trader, but a cultural ambassador, someone who helped forge connections between Scandinavia and the Byzantine Empire. Or perhaps his story will shed light on the darker side of Viking culture, such as their involvement in the slave trade. One thing is certain, the discovery of the farm of Godafoss has already provided invaluable insights into the Viking Age, a period of history that was previously shrouded in mystery. And as the excavations continue, we can be sure that more surprises await us. Who knows what other secrets lie buried at the farm? Or how far the reach of the Vikings truly extended? If you love stories like this, please subscribe. I am bringing you new episodes every week. Now, let us leave behind the open sea and step into the quiet mystery of the earth. In a gentle Norwegian valley, where rolling fields meet low hills, a mound once rose, covered with grass. To passing eyes, it was nothing more than part of the landscape. But beneath it lay one of the most extraordinary discoveries of the Viking Age, the Oseberg ship burial. The mound was opened in the year 1904. As archaeologists cut carefully into the soil, they uncovered timbers. Curved beams emerged, then carved planks, and finally, a full Viking ship, resting where it had been laid more than 1,000 years before. The ship itself was a marvel, over 20 meters long, with its prow sweeping upward in curling designs, carved with intricate patterns of animals and mines. Even after centuries underground, the artistry remained clear. Imagine the craftsmen who shaped it, the sound of chisels on oak, the steady rhythm of hands turning wood into ornament. But it was not only the ship. Inside there were grave goods, sleds, beds, carts, woven tapestries, tools, and carved wooden animals whose faces still gaze at us today with strangely lifelike expressions. These were not objects of war, but of daily life and ceremony tokens meant to accompany the dead on their final journey. And in the heart of the ship lay the remains of 2 women. Who they were remains a mystery. One was older, perhaps in her 80s, her bones marked by illness and age. The other was younger, around 50. Together, they had been buried with all the signs of wealth and reverence. This was not the grave of common farmers, but of women with power, prestige, or perhaps even sacred significance. Scholars have wondered ever since, were they queens? Priestesses, matriarchs of a powerful clan? The truth is hidden by time, but the richness of the burial suggests they were deeply respected, perhaps even revered. They were laid to rest here in the late 800s, an era when the Viking world was shifting. For a millennium, the Scandinavian nations had been forging a distinct identity. Now, the Viking Age was blossoming, known in Scandinavia as the Viking time, a period when daring seafarers fanned out across the north, exploring, trading, and ruling. They sailed to lands that few Europeans had seen, to the frozen shores of Greenland, the sun-drenched coast of the Byzantine Empire, even the remote islands of the North Atlantic. There are many ways to describe the Vikings: fierce warriors, cunning traders, intrepid explorers. But above all, they were master shipbuilders. Ships were the lifeblood of Viking society. They facilitated trade, warfare, and exploration. And none were more spectacular than the burial ship, a vessel designed not for the journey across the sea, but for the journey into the afterlife. Building a burial ship was an immense undertaking. It required the labor of many men, weeks of work, and a vast quantity of resources: planks of wood, ropes made of hemp or flax, nails of iron. The largest burial ships could be over 30 meters long, almost as tall as a 3-story building. Can you imagine the sheer scale of these ships? Their hulls rising gracefully from the water, their sails billowing in the wind as they glided through the waves. These were not just boats, they were floating palaces, symbolic vessels carrying the deceased to their final destination. But it was not enough to construct a grand ship. It had to be filled with grave goods, a treasure trove of objects meant to sustain the dead on their journey. There were practical items like food and clothing, luxury items like jewelry and weapons, and symbolic items like religious icons and family heirlooms. The grave goods in the Oseberg burial mound were particularly rich. suggesting that the women buried there were exceptionally wealthy or important. The mound itself was also a statement, a monumental structure of earth and stone built over the grave, a visible marker of death and remembrance. The Oseberg ship burial is one of the most spectacular archaeological finds of all time. It offers a rare glimpse into the beliefs, values, and traditions of the Viking Age. When archaeologists unearthed the burial mound in 1904, they uncovered more than just a grave. They uncovered a window into a vanished world. Today, visitors from around the world come to marvel at the Oseberg ship burial. The artifacts are displayed in museums, the ship itself reconstructed and preserved. But perhaps the greatest legacy of Oseberg is the sense of wonder it has inspired. As we stand before this remarkable discovery, we are reminded of the ingenuity, creativity, and spirit of adventure of the Viking people. We are also reminded of the fragility of human endeavor, of how much has been lost to the ravages of time, and of the importance of preserving what remains. The story of the Oseberg ship burial is a story of death, yes, but also a story of life. It is a reminder that those who have come before us lived as richly and as deeply as we do now, and that their story is an essential part of our own. So let us listen to the whispers of the past and learn from those who came before. Let us marvel at their achievements and honor their memory. For in doing so, we discover not only who they were, but who we are. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe. Every week I bring you new videos about archaeology and history. The year is 834 Ataya. The ships has just returned to the coast of Norway after a long journey. Among them, an Oseberg ship, its planks still smelling of the sea and its holds brimming with treasures from distant lands. But the voyage is not over. There's one more stop before the crew can rest. They sail into a sheltered inlet, drop anchor, and prepare to go ashore. Their leader, a woman named Regina, surveys the landscape. This will be her final destination. She steps onto the beach, followed by her retinue, and begins walking inland. Soon, the forest opens up and she sees it, a large longhouse with high walls of interwoven branches and a roof of thick thatch. Her men carry her possessions, chests overflowing with silver, silk, and even a small boat. They enter the longhouse and place everything in the center. Then they gather around, along with other men and women who have come from nearby farms. They eat roasted meat, drink ale, and tell stories late into the night. And when they are done, they follow Regina to the shore. In the morning, they carry out the small boat and lower it into the water. They help her inside and push off from the bank. As the boat drifts away, they chant songs and throw in her treasures, one by one, until the water is filled with silver and silk. Finally, they leave the boat alone, and when they return to the longhouse, they tear it down plank by plank, taking it with them. They bury it all in a great mound, covering it over with earth. On top, they place the largest stone they can find. And when it is done, they walk away, each returning to their own home, never to speak of what they have done here. For more than a millennium, the mound lay hidden, holding secrets from the living. Only the stones marked its place, standing like silent witnesses in an empty field. What they had done here was not burial, but passage. The boat and all its riches belonged to the dead woman. Now she would sail away in her grave ship, carried by her retainers and guided by the setting sun, traveling to the land of the dead. Here she would dwell in a great hall filled with feasting, drinking, and the company of heroes, while her spirit walked free on earth. The mound was not a tomb, but a threshold. The people who gathered here had said goodbye to their leader, knowing they would see her again in the next realm. They left behind not only her body, but also her worldly possessions, giving her everything she might need on her journey. This was no ordinary woman. She was Raja, a ruler in her own right, and she took her status with her into the grave. When archaeologists uncovered the mound in 1881, They found her grave ship filled with treasures, a testament to her wealth and power. But they also found the remains of a small boat within the larger vessel, suggesting a journey from a grand hall to a burial mound. What treasures did they put in the grave? With her, they buried the finest goods she owned, including a large cauldron, a horse saddle, and even her favorite dog, all carefully placed around her on the ship. In addition, they deposited a huge quantity of silver, which may have been used to pave her path to the afterlife. But perhaps most striking were the two human figures made of wood, intricately carved with faces that seemed to stare directly at us from across the centuries. Who were they? Perhaps they were fellow travelers, guides to help Raja on her journey. Or maybe they represented the sun and moon watching over her passage. We may never know. As we look at the Oseberg ship today, preserved in a museum, it speaks not of raids or battles, but of something quieter, more profound. It shows us the artistry of Viking craftsmen, the wealth of their leaders, and the mysteries of their beliefs about death and the afterlife. Even now, questions linger. Why two women? Why such splendor? Were they rulers in life or guides to the divine? The sagas are silent, leaving us only with wood, carvings, and fragments of cloth to whisper their story. So as you imagine the Oseberg ship, picture not only its graceful shape, but also the silence it held for 1,000 years, a silence as deep as sleep. A vessel resting between worlds, just as those who lay within it now rest. Their story unfinished, their mystery undisturbed. And from this quiet chamber of the dead, let us turn once more to the world of the living. For not all Vikings lived in the hardship of the farm. Some gathered in warmth and fellowship within the longhouses of chieftains, where feasting, storytelling, and gift-giving shaped the bonds of community. Now, explore further. Delve deeper into the world of the Vikings through additional resources that bring their culture, daily life, and beliefs to light. Your journey through Viking history continues. The years 865 out, you are a member of a Viking raiding party that has just returned. Home after a successful foray into the wealthier lands of the Frankish or Muslim merchants. As the sun sets, you find yourself standing before the great hall of your chieftain, eager to recount tales of the raid and eager for a good night's rest. Let us step now out of the burial mound and into the glow of firelight. The longhouse was the heart of Viking community life, a place not only to sleep and eat, but to gather, to share, and to bind people together. While the farmer's house was simple, a chieftain's longhouse was larger, warmer, and filled with the rhythm of voices. Imagine yourself approaching such a hall on a winter's night. Outside, the wind cuts sharply across the fields, carrying the scent of snow. But as the great wooden doors swing open, you are met with warmth, the crackling of the central fire, the glow of embers against smoke-darkened beams, the murmur of conversation. Inside, the space stretches long and narrow, lined with benches and furs. Shields hang on the walls. The roof beams arch high above, catching the smoke that drifts upward in slow spirals. At the far end sits the chieftain, a figure of respect and generosity. For in Viking society, power was not only measured by strength, but also by the ability to host, to provide, and to give gifts. Wealth was displayed not in hoarded treasure, but in generosity. The feast begins. Platters of roasted meat are carried in, along with bowls of stewed vegetables and thick loaves of bread. Horns are filled with mead-honeyed drink, sweet and warming. As the people eat, voices rise in laughter, in stories, in songs that echo against the timber-burg walls. Gift-giving is part of the ritual. The chieftain may present fine weapons, jewelry, or even land to loyal followers. Each gift strengthens a bond, weaving the community together with threads of obligation and honor. To refuse hospitality would be an insult. To share, it was to affirm belonging. A young warrior named Ragnar Lothbrok rises to his feet, his voice ringing with the joy of the feast. He holds up his horn. To the king, he proclaims, and to our hall, the seat of our power, where the strong find solace and the generous find renown. He takes a long pull from the horn, savoring the mead's warmth spreading through him. In the flickering firelight, the faces around him are a mixture of young and old, male and female, each with their own story, each bound to the hall and to each other by ties of kinship, loyalty, and custom. There's Astrid, her eyes shining with laughter as she exchanges a jest with a young man. Next to her sits Born, his face weathered like an old shield, his gaze fixed on the fire as if seeing visions in its dancing flames. And across from them, a group of skalds, their harps resting on their knees, sing tales of past adventures, their voices blending with the crackling fire and the murmur of the crowd. But suddenly, a hush falls over the hall. All eyes turn to the chieftain, who has risen from his seat. He raises a hand, silencing the room. Ragnar knows that this is a signal, a call for attention. The chieftain, with his flowing beard and stern eyes, is a commanding presence. Even in the dim light, Ragnar can see the muscles coiling beneath his tunic, a testament to a life lived on the edge of the sword. He is not only the leader of this community, but a shield against the darkness that lingers beyond their walls. Brothers and sisters, the chieftain's voice booms, echoing the finality of a battle cry. Tonight, we are blessed with bountiful halls and overflowing cups. Yet we must remember that fortune's wheel can turn on the winds of fate. He pauses, letting his words sink in, his gaze sweeping over the faces around him. For some among us, he continues, his voice dropping to a more intimate tone, the road ahead may lead through hardship and privation. It is a test of character, a trial by hardship that will reveal the true metal within us. His eyes flash with intensity. May the gods grant us endurance, strength, and wisdom in the days to come. As the chieftain finishes his speech, a deep silence envelops the hall. The weight of his words hangs heavy in the air, a stark contrast to the merriment that filled the space moments before. Ragnar feels a shiver run down his spine. He knows the chieftain speaks not only for the future, but for the trials they have already endured to reach this moment of prosperity. The memory of battles fought and sacrifices made is still fresh in his mind. The hall slowly comes back to life, but the atmosphere has shifted. The easy laughter has been replaced by thoughtful murmurs. As Ragnar looks around him, he sees a community transformed, not in its spirit, but in its resolve. They are still a people bound by kinship, loyalty, and custom, but now there is an undercurrent of shared purpose running through the hall, a silent understanding that they are all in this together. The fire crackles, casting long shadows on the faces around him. Each person is focused, not just on their own story, but on the story they are creating together. In this moment, Ragnar realizes that the hall is more than just a building. It is a testament to their resilience, a monument to their shared past, and a beacon for their uncertain future. Let us step now out of the burial mound and into the glow of firelight. The longhouse was the heart of Viking community life, a place not only to sleep and eat, but to gather, to share, and to bind people together. And while the farmer's house was simple, a chieftain's longhouse was larger, warmer, and filled with the rhythm of voices. Imagine yourself approaching such a hall on a winter's night. Outside, the wind cuts sharply across the fields, carrying the scent of snow. But as the great wooden doors swing open, you are met with warmth, the crackling of the central fire, the glow of embers against smoke-darkened beams, the murmur of conversation. Inside, the space stretches long and narrow, lined with benches and furs. Shields hang on the walls. The roof beams arch high above, catching the smoke that drifts upward in slow spirals. At the far end sits the chieftain, a figure of respect and generosity. For in Viking society, power was not only measured by strength, but also by the ability to host, to provide, and to give gifts. Wealth was displayed not in hoarded treasure, but in generosity. The feast begins. Platters of roasted meat are carried in, along with bowls of stewed vegetables and thick loaves of bread. Horns are filled with mead, a honeyed drink, sweet and warming. As the people eat, voices rise in laughter, in stories, in songs that echo against the timber-bird walls. Gift-giving is part of the ritual. The chieftain may present fine weapons, jewelry, or even land to loyal followers. Each gift strengthens a bond, weaving the community together with threads of obligation and honor. To refuse hospitality would be an insult. To share it was to affirm belonging. The key to unlocking the secrets of any culture, big or small, is to spend time with its people. In the bustling market square or in the quiet of a winter evening, a skilled ethnography can uncover stories that reveal a culture's soul. This is more than collecting facts. It's about experiencing the world through another's eyes, understanding their joys and sorrows, their fears and dreams. But how does one gain the trust of a community, especially when worlds and languages are vastly different? The answer lies in the heart of human connection. Through patience, empathy, and a genuine love for storytelling, an ethnography can build bridges across cultures. They become not just an observer, but a participant, sharing in the laughter and the feasts, the challenges and the triumphs. It's a journey of discovery, not just for the ethnography, but for the communities they visit. By sharing their stories, these communities not only educate outsiders, but also reaffirm their cultural identity, passing down traditions and values to future generations. In an increasingly interconnected world, this work is more important than ever. Through cultural exchange, we challenge stereotypes, dismantle prejudices, and celebrate the richness of human diversity. We learn that differences are not barriers, but opportunities to forge connections, understanding, and lasting friendships. And who knows where these connections might lead. Perhaps an artisan from a remote village will find inspiration on the global stage. Maybe a scientist from a bustling metropolis will discover innovative solutions in a sustainable rural community. Or maybe, just maybe, we'll all be inspired to live richer, more compassionate lives by embracing the wisdom of cultures both near and far. So let us continue to support and celebrate those who have dedicated their lives to cultural preservation and exchange. Let us listen to their stories and in turn share our own. And let us never stop exploring the vast, beautiful tapestry of human culture. Now, let us return to the world of the Vikings. Can you recall a time when you felt the warmth of a shared meal in good company? How did it make you feel? Share your thoughts below. And if you'd like to explore more about Viking culture, click here to watch our video on their myths and legends. Dive into a world of gods and heroes and let your journey through history begin. The wind is cold tonight, but the fire burns bright, chasing away the darkness and the chill. Outside, the snow falls silently, wrapping the world in white. It's a night like this that makes the longhouse feel like home. For when the icy fingers of winter grip the land, there's no place I'd rather be than here. The air is filled with the scent of pine from the crackling fire and wood smoke curling lazily toward the roof. The light dances in the space between the pillars, weaving patterns on the wall. In the flickering glow, the faces around me seem to glow. Their features soften, their smiles brighter. I see the chieftain, his weathered face etched with the stories of a life well lived. His sons and grandsons, their laughter echoing the joy of youth. The women, their hands deftly working their crafts, their voices blending in soft harmony. The jarls and the thanes, their presence a reassuring constant like the pillars that hold up this roof. The warriors, their eyes holding the glint of battle, their hands resting on the hilts of their swords. They tell tales of daring deeds and battles won, their voices rising and falling like the waves on a stormy sea. I listen, rapt to their stories, feeling the thrill of their victories as if they were my own. A bard strums a tune on his harp, the notes echoing through the hall. The rhythmic thump of a hammer on an anvil rings out, mingling with the lilting melody. I watch a young apprentice, his brow furrowed in concentration as he hammers away at a piece of metal. The rhythmic clang or ring of hammer on metal fills the air. The scent of leather, wood, and metal mingle in the workshop, creating a heady aroma that speaks of hard work and dedication. I turn my gaze to the women working at their looms, their fingers flying deftly over the threads. The rhythmic clatter of their shuttles weaves a soothing melody that lulls me into a state of peaceful contemplation. Each thread they pull, each knot they tie, is a testament to their skill and patience. Their creations, beautiful tapestries and sturdy ropes, are not just functional. They are works of art. The loom, once a simple frame of wood and string, becomes a vessel for their creativity. Suddenly, a hush falls over the crowd. All eyes turn towards the entrance as a new arrival makes their way into the hall. It is Freya, her steps sure and graceful, her head held high. She moves with the elegance of a swan, her presence commanding attention. Her flowing red hair catches the firelight, setting it ablaze like a crown of burning embers. Her eyes, the color of the winter sky, sparkle with mirth and mischief. A smile plays on her lips, and her laughter rings out, clear and sweet as a bird's song. As she approaches, the men rise to their feet, their eyes never leaving her. She is a vision of feminine beauty, a stark contrast to the rugged Norsemen gathered in the hall. Even the bards pause their music, their instruments silent in her presence. She takes her place beside me, and I cannot help but steal glances at her, captivated by her every move. She leans closer, her voice a low murmur in my ear. "Do you remember," she asks, "the old tales they told us about the gods and the giants? Do you think they were just stories?" Her eyes, twin pools of starlight, search mine. "What do you think?" she whispers. Before I can reply, a shadow falls across the opening, and the hall falls silent. All eyes turn to the new arrival. It is the chieftain, his presence commanding respect and admiration. He moves with the quiet dignity of a seasoned leader, his steps echoing the wisdom of years. As he takes his place at the high table, a murmur runs through the crowd. His sons and grandsons fan out around him, forming a protective circle of strength and loyalty. In the flickering firelight, I see the love and respect in their eyes, the bond of family and duty shining through. The chieftain raises his horn, his voice booming with authority and warmth. "To family," he proclaims, "the anchor that holds us through the storms of life." The hall erupts in cheers, the sound echoing the strength and unity of the clan. As the feast continues late into the night, I find myself surrounded by the warmth of family and friends. The food is plentiful, the mead flows freely, and the sounds of laughter and conversation fill the hall. The rhythm of the party reaches a fever pitch. The warriors are engaged in a lively game, their boisterous laughter echoing through the hall. Their shouts and cheers rising above the din, their camaraderie evident in their easy banter. Suddenly, one of the warriors, his face flushed with excitement, throws back his head and lets out a mighty war cry, startling me. The others join in, their voices blending in a powerful chorus. "Skull," they chant, raising their horns in a mock toast. The hall shakes with their fervor as they continue their raucous game, but amidst the chaos, I can't help but smile. Their infectious energy is impossible to resist. Soon enough, I find myself swept up in their enthusiasm, clapping along and shouting with abandon. And then, as quickly as it began, the merriment subsides. The warriors, their voices now hushed, recount tales of valor and adventure. The flickering firelight dances in their eyes, casting long shadows on the walls as they speak. Their voices, lower now, weave a tapestry of daring deeds and battles fought. Each story is a masterpiece, a testament to their courage and resilience. I sit spellbound, hanging on their every word, feeling as if I too am part of their adventures. And when they fall silent, The only sound that fills the hall is the crackling fire and the murmur of the crowd. It's been a long night, a celebration of life, of family, and of the stories that bind us. As the first rays of dawn peek through the cracks in the longhouse, I know it's time to rest. Sleep now, little brother, and dream of adventures yet to come. The night is far from over, but the spirits are high. The fire crackles merrily, casting dancing shadows on the walls, and the company is in fine spirits. The feast has been bountiful, and the strong ale flows freely, loosening tongues and making hearts light. It has been an honor to share this night with you, to witness the strength, the warmth, and the spirit of your people. But now I must bid you farewell. May your fires burn bright, your harvests be plentiful, and your stories endure through the ages. Until we meet again, keep the fire of life burning brightly within you. Let its warmth guide you through the darkness, and its light illuminate your path. Farewell, friends.
Tonight's story comes to a close. If your eyes have gently shut, then I wish you a deep, peaceful sleep. Until we meet again in the next dream.